You have probably seen it. Maybe you have lived it. You unclip the lead rope, turn away, and your horse follows. Not because there is food in your hand. Not because you asked. Not because there is nowhere else to go. They just come. They close the distance between you and hold it there, walking when you walk, stopping when you stop, as though some invisible thread connects you, and they are simply unwilling to let it go slack. Most people call it bonding. Some call it imprinting. A few call it training. But none of those words actually explain what is happening. Because what is happening runs deeper than behavior. It runs deeper than training history, or feed schedules, or time spent together. What is happening when your horse follows you without being asked is one of the most complex and revealing things an animal can do. And the science behind it is something that most horse owners have never been given access to. Stay with me through every point, because point 3 is the piece that reframes everything else. And the final point is the one that tells you exactly what kind of person your horse has decided you are. 1. Following is not about you. It is about what you represent in their nervous system. Here is the first thing to understand. When your horse follows you, they are not following you, the person, in the way you might think of it. They are following a feeling. A specific neurologically anchored feeling that your presence has come to produce in their body. Horses are herd animals at the level of their biology, not as a lifestyle preference, as a survival imperative. The herd is not something horses choose. It is something their nervous system requires. Because for a prey animal, isolation is not just uncomfortable, it is dangerous. A horse alone in the wild is a horse with no early warning system, no collective vigilance, no safety net of other bodies between them and whatever is coming from the tree line. The herd is the mechanism that makes survival possible. And the nervous system of every domestic horse alive today, no matter how many generations removed from the wild, still runs that ancient code, still reads aloneness as threat, still reaches for connection the way a drowning animal reaches for solid ground. What changes in a bonded horse is not that they stop needing the herd, it is that they find the herd in you. Your presence begins to produce in their nervous system the same signal that the herd once produced: safety, regulation, the felt sense that the perimeter is held and the world is manageable right now. When your horse follows you, they are not being cute. They are moving toward the thing that makes their nervous system feel like it is not alone. And that is not a small thing to be. That is the most important thing one living creature can be to another. 2. The decision to follow was never made in a single moment. It accumulated. People tend to think of bonding as an event, a breakthrough moment. The day the horse finally let you catch them without a chase. The first time they whinnied when they heard your car. The afternoon they fell asleep in your arms during grooming. And those moments are real. They matter. But they are not the decision. They are the evidence of a decision that was made incrementally across dozens or hundreds of interactions, none of which felt significant in isolation. Horses build their trust assessments the way a scientist builds a conclusion, through data, through repeated observation of what happens when a particular variable, in this case you, is introduced into their environment. Does this person move predictably? Does their energy match what they are asking for? Do they stop when I say something is too much? Do they come back after they leave? Does being near them make my nervous system louder or quieter? Every single interaction you have ever had with your horse was a data point in that assessment. The days you showed up tired and moved slowly and let the session be easy. The days you noticed they were worried and changed your plan. The days you asked for something difficult and made sure they succeeded before you finished. The days you simply stood beside them and required nothing at all. All of it went into the calculation. None of it was wasted. Research from the University of Rennes examining the formation of human-horse relationships over time found that the quality and consistency of early interactions predicted the strength of affiliative behavior, including following and proximity seeking, far more accurately than the total amount of time spent together. It was not quantity, It was what the time contained, what it felt like, what it consistently said about who you were going to be. Your horse did not decide to follow you. They concluded it, after more careful observation than most humans ever apply to anything. 3. There is a specific kind of leadership your horse is looking for, and most people never offer it. This is the point that changes things. When people talk about horses following them, the conversation almost always slides toward dominance, toward the idea that a horse follows the leader of the herd, and that the goal of horsemanship is to establish yourself in that role. And there is something true in that framing, but the part that gets left out is the most important part. In a horse herd, leadership is not about authority. It is about reliability. The horse that others follow is not the one who controls the most space or wins the most confrontations. It is the one whose responses to the environment are the most trustworthy, the one who does not overreact, the one who investigates before fleeing, the one who, when they signal that something is safe, has been right enough times that the rest of the herd has learned to believe them. Dr. Andrew McLean's research into equine social behavior and learning has consistently pointed toward the same finding. Horses seek proximity to individuals, equine or human, whose emotional regulation is stable and whose behavior is predictable. Not dominant in the aggressive sense, regulated, consistent, safe to follow because following them has historically led somewhere good. This is why a calm, quiet person who moves slowly and speaks rarely will often have a horse walking at their shoulder within an hour of meeting them. While a louder, more forceful person with far more experience stands at the other end of the paddock, wondering why the horse will not come. The horse is not assessing experience. They are assessing nervous system. They are asking, is this one regulated enough for me to borrow their calm? Is this one worth following into the unknown? And the answer they arrive at has nothing to do with how much you know about horses. It has everything to do with what your presence feels like from inside a nervous system that is trying to decide whether the world is safe right now. 4. When they follow at liberty, they are telling you something they cannot fake. There is a meaningful difference between a horse that follows because they have been trained to and a horse that follows because they choose to. Both look similar from the outside. Both produce the same image of a person walking through a field with a horse at their shoulder. But they are not the same thing, and horses know the difference, even when humans do not. At liberty, with no halter, no lead rope, no fence line funneling them towards you, a horse has complete freedom to go anywhere their legs will carry them. The grass is there, other horses are there, the far corner of the paddock is there, and they choose you instead. That choice is not nothing. It is the purest signal the horse has available to communicate something they cannot say in any other way. I would rather be here than anywhere else right now. Equine behaviorist, Nevzorov Haut-École researcher, and horse liberty advocate Alexander Nevzorov spent years documenting what he described as the voluntary nature of true horse-human connection, arguing that the horse who follows freely is making a social declaration that trained following can never replicate. Because trained behavior can be maintained through pressure, even when the relationship underneath it has eroded. But voluntary following cannot. It requires something real underneath it. It requires that being near you produces something in the horse's nervous system that being away from you does not. And that something is not trainable. It is not achievable through repetition or reward alone. It is the residue of a relationship that has been genuinely good for the horse, of a presence that has consistently offered them something worth staying close to. When your horse follows you at liberty, they are not performing, they are voting. With their feet, in the most honest election they know how to hold. 5. The horse who will not follow is also telling you something, and it deserves the same attention. It would be incomplete to talk about the horse who follows without talking about the horse who does not, because that horse is communicating something equally important, equally worthy of curiosity rather than frustration. A horse who consistently moves away when you approach, who finds reasons to be somewhere else when you are present, who can be caught but never truly closes the distance voluntarily, is not being difficult. They are being honest. Something in their experience of being around you has taught their nervous system that proximity to you is not the direction of safety. Maybe the pressure was too much, too often. Maybe the sessions consistently ended before they had a chance to decompress. Maybe something frightened them in your presence, and the connection between you and that fear never got resolved. Maybe they have simply never been given the experience of a human who stayed quiet long enough for their nervous system to decide it was worth coming closer. The reasons vary, but the message is consistent. This does not feel safe enough yet. Not yet. Which means the horse who will not follow is not a failure of training. They are an invitation. An honest, specific, behavioral invitation to become someone whose presence produces a different feeling, to slow down, to require less, to stand in the field and do nothing, and wait, and see if the gap between you starts to close on its own. Some of the most profound relationships in horsemanship began not with a horse who followed, but with a horse who stayed away, until the human finally learned how to be worth coming toward. That process is not a problem to be solved. It is the relationship being built in the only language the horse has. 6. The horse behind you has already told you everything you need to know about yourself. Here is where it all lands, and this one asks something of you. If your horse follows you, it is tempting to feel good about it in a simple way, to take it as a compliment and move on. But it is worth sitting with what it actually means. Your horse is not following you because you are their owner. Ownership means nothing to a nervous system. Your horse is not following you because you have good equipment, or correct technique, or years of experience. None of that registers in the part of the brain that decides whether to close a distance or hold it. Your horse is following you because across every interaction you have ever had, your presence has consistently produced a feeling in their nervous system that they are not willing to move away from. You have been regulated when it would have been easier to be reactive. You have listened when it would have been easier to push through. You have shown up consistently enough that the pattern of you became something they could rely on. You have, without necessarily knowing you were doing it, become someone worth following. That is not a small thing. That is a character assessment delivered by an animal who cannot be charmed or manipulated or impressed by anything except the actual quality of your presence over time. Research by Martine Hausberger at the University of Rennes found that horses' willingness to approach and maintain proximity with specific humans correlated directly with measurable qualities of those humans' behavior: consistency, calmness, responsiveness to the horse's signals, and absence of unpredictable pressure. The horse was not responding to who the human thought they were. They were responding to who the human actually was, when no one was watching and nothing was at stake. So the next time your horse closes the distance between you without being asked, understand what you are being told. You have been observed more carefully than you probably know. You have been assessed by a nervous system that has no capacity for flattery and no reason to lie. And the verdict came back in your favor. Not because of what you know, because of who you were when you were with them. That is the only thing that was ever being measured, and that is the only thing that ever mattered.